Okay, O ye online viewer, somehow we forgot to record the beginning of our teacher training on Wednesday night, and so I'm going to recreate the very beginning, and then I'm going to splice this together into the actual footage from our gathering together. So we had about 6 of us or so, 6 or so teachers, maybe 7 for this portion of our training. And we looked at a couple different items: why good teaching matters, the 6 elements of biblical teaching, a way to build those principles into our weekly lesson preparation. Then we did a small group exercise, large group sharing, and summary and a time of prayer. We began by talking about why teaching matters. In theory, I was supposed to have a little video clip in there, but we were running so short that we didn't have time to do that, unfortunately. And so I skipped the 3-minute video clip. It was kind of a humorous, comedic introduction to what happens when people don't learn the Bible and how wacky and funny they can get. So that was one reason, is kind of the creative, engaging part of just you need to, because otherwise it's going to be a mess. But the other thing is that our new mission statement at St. Paul is to glorify God by making disciples who connect in community, grow in faith, and serve in joy. And of course, at least 2 sections of this are directly about Christian education and teaching. One is making disciples, and then growing in faith is also both directly related to this issue of being an effective teacher. So it matters. And you can see this mission statement in this diagram here, where we have connecting and community, and here, of course, we have growing in faith in order to become more effective disciples. Okay, so that's one reason. The other is that it is just a historic value of Presbyterians to be educated, basically, to be involved in a lifelong learning adventure, and to grow in our understanding of Scriptures and their application to everyday life. From John Calvin to the very present day, this has been something that has been near and dear to Presbyterians throughout the ages. So there are 5 elements of good biblical teaching. The first thing we did when we gathered was we brainstormed what makes a good or a complete church school lesson. What are the different components? And people came up with some wonderful answers. They talked about people get engaged, you study the Bible, and so on and so forth. And then we began to look at how that compares to a biblical passage, Colossians chapter 1, verses 9 through 10. That passage reads this way. It says, "Since the day that we heard of you, we have not stopped praying for you and asking that you may be filled with the knowledge of God's will and all spiritual wisdom and understanding, so that you may walk in a manner worthy of the Lord, to please God in all respects, bearing fruit in every good work, and increasing in the knowledge of God." That's Colossians chapter 1, verses 9 through 10. We're going to break this down, okay, and see how kind of what we brainstorm compares to what this passage says. We have not stopped praying for you. Okay, the first thing that Paul says. Every lesson should include prayer. It doesn't have to be long or fancy, but it does have to should have prayer. And kids are natural prayers. Adults are terrified of prayer. Kids are natural prayers. You don't have to push kids. Even Matthew, we had his friend Johanna over tonight, and Matthew offered the prayer at Grace, and he prayed for the school year, that they would have a great school year and things like that. And I was like, wow! You know, and this is Matthew, who often I wonder about. But pray for God's guidance, and for your students also as you prepare your lesson. So just pray. Bathe your lesson in prayer. Be filled with the knowledge of God's will. You'll find this, by the way, in your little booklets here. If you're a note taker, you'll find all of this stuff in there, and you can fill in the blanks and things like that. Okay? As Christians, we believe that God has revealed God's self. How does that happen in our theology? Where has God revealed God's self, God's identity to us?
In the Bible?
Yeah, in the Bible. And also simply in the person of Jesus. And the Bible bears witness to Jesus, right? 2 Timothy 3 says, all Scripture is inspired by God and is profitable. The second element of good teaching then is Bible knowledge, right? The Bible verse, right? Got to get that in there, okay? It is so tempting, isn't it? I don't know about you, to skip to crafts, okay? Or to spend your time being social, or what have you. But really avoid that temptation, because that's what we're here for, okay? Knowledge of the Bible is good, but that knowledge has to lead to understanding. We're not just here to have people do rote memorization, right? We're here to have them understand it. And so the Hebrew word for wisdom means skill in living. And I love that. I think that that's what we're about as church school teachers and educators in the school, is we want our kids to have wisdom or skill in living. I think that's a cool idea. And so we want to impart that. We want to tell them, that the choices they're going to make now are going to impact the rest of their lives, and their friends' lives, and their parents' lives, and life, the people they're going to touch and serve, okay? We need to lead kids to an understanding of how the Bible relates to their daily lives. And I think Brittany, you said application, right? Questions that lead to application. Show me what this truth looks like in everyday living. Okay. Or the big question I always have to ask when I'm doing my sermons, is so what? So what? We study this Bible passage. What do you want me to do, feel, think, or whatever? And so, verse 4 says, so that you may walk in a manner worthy of the Lord, to please God. So it's not just knowledge. All of this has to be translated into action, right? Understanding not translated into action is useless. And so in this phase we focus on choosing how to respond. Choosing how to respond. We need to challenge kids to choose how they will be different because of their church school lesson. Okay? And don't be afraid to challenge them, because kids will rise to your level of expectation and God's level of expectation. If we never challenge them to serve, for instance, they never will serve. If we do, they will. And if we say, oh, you can never memorize this passage, they won't. But if we say, we're going to memorize this passage, they will. They will, because you expect it of them. And then the fifth thing is bearing fruit in every good work. Over time, this will result in consistent behavior patterns, right? That's the goal. Increasing in knowledge of God, over time, consistent behavior patterns result in personal intimacy with God. Okay? So we now then know God in a more personal way. We can talk to God. We can pray to God. When we're in a crisis, we know where to turn. Okay? So, here's what we have. This is what that passage says. Since the day we've heard of you, we've not stopped praying for you and asking that you may be filled with the knowledge of God's will. Right? That's the Bible knowledge. Right? In all spiritual wisdom and understanding. So we want not just knowledge, but we also want to understand what that means. Right? So that you can walk in a manner worthy of the Lord. So, in other words, you can choose how to respond to this. To please God in all respects, bearing fruit in every good work, consistent behavior, right? And increasing in the knowledge of God, which is personal intimacy. Again, that's the passage, Colossians 1, 9 through 10. Does that make some sense to you? Okay? Okay. We're going to keep going here. So, what I want to give you is a really practical way, okay, to build these principles into your weekly lesson preparation. Now, you're going to have a curriculum. Thanks be to God. This year we have a curriculum for everybody. And we're so excited about it. We've got great curriculum, too.
Is that new?
That is new. Yes, it is. We haven't had that for a little bit. At least a consistent, thing that we said, here, now this is what we'd like you to do, and it follows a pattern and has some logic to it and all that good stuff. So, no, we didn't have that. I learned this from a book, and it's a classic book in Bible teaching. It's by Larry Richards. It's called Creative Bible Teaching. I learned it 20 years ago in seminary, and it has stuck with me ever since. And I pretty much do my sermons. I do every lesson for every age I ever do. I use basically these things. It's a holy BLT. Bacon, lettuce, and tomato? You like bacon, lettuce, tomatoes? Holy BLT. Here it is. Hook, book, look, took. That's it. If every lesson you teach has those four elements, it will be a good lesson. And we're going to break that down. Hook, book, look, took. Easy to remember, okay? Hook, book, look, took. Holy BLT. There's your hook right there, huh? Okay, there's your book, there's your look, and there's your took. Let's talk about the hook first, okay? You got to get somebody's attention in any lesson, right? You've got to catch their attention. You got to surface a need. You got to explain to them why this lesson matters or why this Bible passage is relevant, okay? You got to scratch somehow so that they'll say, ooh, I think I actually will pay attention instead of hitting my neighbor, you know, during the next 10 minutes, okay? You need to set a goal. You need to kind of say, this is the direction we're going to head with this lesson, and you need to lead them into the Bible study through this. So it shouldn't be just an attention getter and then you do something totally irrelevant, right? It should be connected to what you're doing, okay, the hook, okay? So what are some of the ways that we can hook children, or adults for that matter, or teenagers, or whatever? What are some of the interesting things that you've done in your own lesson plans, or people that you've appreciated have done?
Dress up weird.
Oh, dress up weird, come in costume. Yeah, cool. Yeah, boy, that'll get their attention, won't it? Yeah. Yeah, good. What other kinds of things?
Object of something that's going to be tied to your lesson, but it's going to get that conversation.
Okay, so you bring in something weird or something that they go,
A
what
loaf
the?
of bread or a bowl, fish, something that's going to be tied
Right,
to.
yeah, awesome,
The
cool.
kids are going, what's this?
Great, so an object can do that too, yeah, good. Good, what else?
Kind of do with that and make it, not let them know what it is.
Yeah,
Well,
save it
that's
till
what
the
you need to
end.
get them talking. And
Like, well, like if
Like
you
your
just have it
box.
covered even, or just a box,
Yeah,
and don't
right.
tell them what's in
down.
it.
That would be
Yeah.
good too, mystery, yeah.
Music.
I was gonna say
Music can
or
do it.
movie clips.
Yeah, movie clips are a big one today. Boy, YouTube, guys, has so many absolutely wonderful Christian clips on it now. Cartoons of Bible stories, all sorts of things like that. If you ever are at a just put it on YouTube, just do a quick search on David and Goliath cartoon. Oh my goodness, you'll have 5 or 6 that are free to use, Yeah.
With the older kids, one time last year, I Snapchatted everyone a picture of something before they came to.
Oh, that's awesome.
So they were thinking about it
Right,
beforehand. 'cause
clever.
They all added me with the silly
using
little
new
Snapchat.
technology and Facebook and Snapchat,
That was
Instagram,
kinda
and all.
fun. I
Yeah,
did
if you
like
don't
a-
know, talk to your teenager, right? Yeah, I know. But that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay.
To that age group.
All of these things are wonderful. Inside your book here, okay, there's something for you to take home where it has in here a whole bunch of hook ideas. There's 15 of them. Do you see that? And so agree, disagree sheet, buzz groups, case study. And I'm not going to read all these. I'm going to let you take those home, okay? But this is kind of a keeper because I try to get some really good things to help you get thinking about that. Okay, the book, okay, is the Bible, obviously. Bible means book. And this is where we're going to observe and interpret the Bible. We need to involve the students in the study of the passage. We need to clarify. We have to figure out what does the passage actually mean first, probably, right? Like the who, what, where questions, What exactly are we reading? Because sometimes it takes a little bit to kind of get in there, doesn't it? Communicating the general and the transferable principles from the passage. So here we're getting at what are kind of the principles behind it. We're kind of increasing in our abstraction a little bit, aren't we, right? Okay? So we start with that specific thing of, what is it saying, what did it mean, kind of, and now what are the principles behind that, okay? So, what are some of the ways that you can get students into the book? What are some of the ways you can get them into the Bible, that passage? What do you think about that?
Well, you can already have it printed off in another format,
Okay.
so they don't have an actual book in front of them.
Okay, okay, good. So like what are some of the other formats you might use? You're right.
Acting it out.
Ooh, you could act it out. That is an awesome way, right? Kids love to move. All ages love to move. Even senior hires love to move. They may kind of grump at you a little bit, but they do. Yeah, act it out, yeah.
Finding current situations that tie to a story that's, you start talking about this situation that's
Okay.
current and how that relates to
Okay, good.
this guy in the Bible had that same,
Excellent.
and then try and tie those.
Good.
A connection, as we say in school.
Right. A connection. Yeah, a link, right? A link. Cool. Yeah, excellent. Good. What else? Anything else? In here, you have 13 pages of ways to get kids into the passage. Okay? They're arranged alphabetically. Okay? And there are some really creative things there. Like, you know, have you ever put, take the passage and it's 6 verses or it's 5 words or 6 words or 6 phrases or something like that, and you put them inside balloons, right? And then you say, okay, get up and go pop the balloons. And then they pop the balloons, and then you say, now, go put those 6 things into order, right? Okay? There's a gazillion of those and so many more really creative and fun ways to get kids into that Bible passage, including memorization ways. I know that Protestants for a long time kind of said, oh, we don't want people to do rote memorization. And guess what? We've created a whole generation of people who know nothing about the Bible and couldn't quote it if their life depended upon it, you know? And so we need to get some of the basics in there, the 10 Commandments, the 23rd Psalm.
I like that where you stick the name on their forehead, they have to guess
Oh, yeah.
who you are.
Yeah, that could be fun too. Or you could,
No wonder.
Yeah, or you could put the phrase from the Bible passage and say, arrange yourselves in order, and they have to look at one another and all sorts of things like, you know, there's just endless ways you can do this. Okay, let's do this thing here. Look, okay, we want to explore the way that that passage and those principles could be applied to their lives. So we want to now relate truth to life. So here we're coming into the application section. We want to provide opportunity to explore general implications of the text to life. We need to motivate, okay? We need to say, this is why this matters, okay? And this is significant. This is life and death. This is the difference between, you know, making somebody's day and breaking somebody's day. This is the difference for you having a good relationship the rest of your life or you having a miserable relationships the rest of your life. You know, why does it matter? Okay, so how can we get students to look at applications? How could we do that?
I know that community service stuff that we do, like the food pantry and
Okay.
and getting out there and working.
Okay.
Yeah.
That could be a particular application. Good. Yeah. Good. What else? How else can we get students to look at that Bible passage and those Bible principles and then say, what are possible ways this could apply to life? How would that happen? How could we do that?
Well, if they have personal experiences or things that happened in their family.
So maybe
in
we
their
ask
world,
them, have you ever
at
had
school,
an
at
experience
home, on
where
vacation.
this happened to you?
Or a friend,
Or a friend? Or have you ever been in a bind and seen God come through in this way, you know, or do this action? Okay, good. Yeah. We could just ask them, couldn't we? Like, what are some ways that you guys think this might apply to life? Just outright ask them, especially older kids. They're able to do that, more of that abstract stuff.
And I also think it helps too if you put them like in the smaller groups, if there are enough in the class, you know,
Yeah.
then they don't feel maybe singled out. And
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
a team.
That can be a great teaching technique in general, is to alternate between small groups and large groups. Have them turn and do like neighbor nudges, give them a question to ask their neighbor and talk amongst themselves and then come back and report to the large group. That's really good if you have shy kids in your group, because a lot of shy kids won't talk in a larger group, but boy, they certainly have ideas, but they're just a little hesitant to share them. So that can be a way to bring them out. Good. Good. Okay. And then took. Okay. So we've brainstormed possible applications, and then we actually want to encourage them to take one of those. The problem is, most of the time, at least for me, I have a zillion ideas about ways I'm going to apply it, and I never choose one of them. And so we want to encourage, you don't want to force kids, but you want to say, now let's have a little time for you to, you know, reflect on this personally, you know, and pray about this a little bit. Give them a little silence or something. So that provide an opportunity to identify out-of-class application of that truth to life. Leads to specific actions. Okay, I can't stress that enough. We're not into generalizations. This week, how are you going to love your neighbor? This week, can you think of a kid in your class who doesn't fit in, who you could go and befriend? This week, you know what I'm saying?
Challenge them.
You challenge them to do it. And again, because if we don't challenge them, they won't do it. But if we expect them to do it, you know, they will do it. We all will do it. We want to be challenged to act. We don't want to just have a lecture, do we? Allow meaningful completion. It allows for meaningful completion of the lesson. Okay. Okay. So what are some of the ways you can get students to take? I actually suggested some, didn't I, right? Give them a time to pray, you know, and silently. What are some other ways? What are the
I
ways?
think
that
you
they
kind of need to almost hold them accountable and maybe the following
can-
week ask them, okay,
Ooh,
so what did you
excellent,
do?
excellent.
Because
Yeah,
if you
tell
never
us about
ask
that.
them, they're gonna think, okay, they don't care, so I'm not really.
Excellent. So start the following week and tell them that week that here's your assignment and we want you to come back and tell us how you did next Sunday, and then do it.
Yeah.
And even, you know, with Wednesdays, I like, do we give them homework? No, we don't want to make it homework, but challenges, or here's this week's goal, you know? And
Right.
then we're talking about decorating the room, you know, and it's even anybody. I mean, wait, what? We like that sticker. We want that sticker.
Isn't that the
So
truth?
everybody likes some little
Yeah.
little recognition.
That could be
way
it,
to go.
and maybe
So,
that's it. Maybe if you do it, you get XYZ.
Yeah.
I'm not beyond bribery.
I'm
I'm
all
not.
about it. It works.
It's called motivate.
Motivation.
What- is that what you call it? In my family, we just call it bribery. We just
Call it
say,
what it is.
right? So, but challenge them again, you know? Okay, so here's a small group exercise. James, chapter 1, 19 through 20. You must understand this, my beloved. Let everyone be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger, for your anger does not produce God's righteousness. That's our passage, okay? It's in your book, okay? And now what we want you to do is to have one group, work on the hook. You guys, hook. You guys are going to be look. Can you, Annette, step back and work with Brittany on, we have hook, book, look, took, okay? So
Are you booked?
do a neighbor nudge, okay, with those folks, and you guys come up with, for that scripture passage, that lesson on anger, okay? We want you to come up with like a possible hook or two, okay? And then be prepared to share it with the larger group, okay? So how can you do that? Just brainstorm crazy, okay? Have fun with it. Can we give you a minute or two?
Is that what it was?
So, if I had
We're done.
Brainstorm another one or two. Come on. Brainstorm more. Give us a whole bunch. Give us some ideas about anger.
Well, I got ideas.
Conference once that was really funny, where you had, like, this person said the emotion, and like, you couldn't see it, so I had to just tell you what it was.
Yeah.
Especially when they talk constipated. It's like, well, that's what the whole conference was. We could do that.
Okay.
Another one you can come in like.
motivate them,
By yourself.
share an experience.
Yeah, no, they do rush, but it's a booklet, so.
Much like they've seen God's
Yeah.
work.
Oh,
So
okay.
tied to that.
Everyone be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger, for your anger does not produce God's righteousness.
Yes, we have that.
And you have to share an
And you have a little page to write this down if you'd like to.
Huge paper.
Okay, about 30 more seconds. 30 more seconds, because again, I know you're in a rush.
And it didn't work.
Just want you to start
Time
thinking.
when, I think just asking for examples.
I would probably just do a neighbor nudge and have them tell the person next to them. Because everyone has
Sort of shrink.
everyone should have an experience where they got mad at mom or the boyfriend or something, and then, so you didn't listen to them, you got real mad real fast, and then you realize that there was a good explanation or reason, and everyone has their own problems going on,
My ears are
and how
plugged
they could
today,
have
so I've got a little guy right now.
not
He's
gone
all
through the
blood.
trouble
So
of
he has cardigan and he's always talking
fighting.
Like a senior citizen.
My dad's like, my hearing aid battery's up, you know.
Right. All right, let's come back together here. Hook, tell us your genius ideas for the lesson on being slow, but being quick to listen and slow to anger. Yeah, how are you going to get their
Well,
attention?
if you were team teaching, the pair of teachers could come in together, bantering and arguing and disagreeing.
Oh, clever.
If you were teaching on your own, you could come in, we all have cell phones, you come in with your cell phone and be really growly at your phone and slam your books, and if you hear your first,
Great.
sit down,
Throw a tantrum.
I love it. That's great, yeah. Yeah, or find an old cell phone and throw it against the wall, right, you know? I mean, get an old junker, that you don't care about, right? Yeah, you just Cool. That's great. I love the idea of the two people coming in and starting an argument with one another and
Stage
getting
fight.
angry with one another and then turn to the class after a while and say, how did that make you feel, you know? So our topic today is, great. Okay, book. Tell us how we're going to get into the book.
Oh, we did look.
Oh, we did look. Uh-oh.
No, I thought we did book. We had sort of two ideas.
Okay.
One was because there are specific phrases in there,
Right.
have them acted out because they sort of go with actions.
Quick to
And-
listen, slow to speak, slow to anger.
And the other was sort of a charade of portraying emotions so that the group could guess
They
what
pull,
emotions
they
people
pull
are
an actual
portraying.
card out of a box or something, nobody would know it except the students, and the
Right.
other kids would have to guess. And then they couldn't
Oh,
talk,
like
they'd
listening,
have to
right?
ask.
Or anger,
Yeah.
or, and take the
Or
different
even
components.
happiness, or sadness, or
Yeah.
loneliness, or whatever.
I like it. Awesome. Well done, book people. How about look people? What'd you come up with?
It was pretty much just like a nudge your neighbor talk with the
Okay.
person next to you and share a time when you got mad. How could you handle that differently?
Yeah,
We
yeah,
talk about
okay.
like the boyfriend breakup or getting mad at your parents about getting grounded.
Right,
That
right,
situation.
right.
How, not specifics. And just talk about how if you were to slow your anger to listen, how those things would have changed, or if you did do those things,
Excellent.
how did it change?
Excellent. So take a real life example, kind of do slow motion on it, right?
Break it
And then
down
break
and-
it down and say, how could it have been different? What other components could we have added? Yeah.
Worse.
Excellent. So you're exploring application possibilities and our took people.
And ours is similar, is that once they, go home or to school and they're in an argument situation, to kind of stop and, count to 10 and just see how
Okay.
that worked for them,
Okay?
if that slowed them down a little bit.
Great. So next week,
And then next
here's
week.
your challenge. I want you to come back with a situation where you got angry this week and you slowed down and counted to 10 or said the 10 commandments or prayed for the person who you were angry with or whatever it was, right? Perfect, good. Excellent, 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 okay. So, here's what I want you to take a minute to think about, okay, for yourself. What are you weakest in, okay? The hook area or the book area, I don't need to know your answer, or the look area or the application, the took area, the challenging. So, and then how can you improve? So I want to give you like 15 seconds to just kind of ask yourself, which one for you is the one that you don't do automatically?
I think it depends on the verse.
Okay, so it may depend upon the situation,
Yeah.
okay?
And it
Some of
also
those
depends on
verses
who's
are
there,
And it depends
because
on
the
who's
dynamics
there.
of the classroom is,
Okay.
changes with who's there.
Okay, good, good.
That's a disclaimer though, isn't it?
Right.
Looking at all of
But you're I freak to anger.
No, right, but what I'm asking you is that when you're teaching, hook, book, look, or took, which is the hardest for you, or which is the...
Reel it in,
That's
put it back,
okay.
put it back.
I know, come on back, right? Yeah, and by the way, oftentimes if kids or adults do get way off track, something simple you can do, time out, or I will do this. I'm reeling you back in, I am reeling you back in, come back to the topic, okay, Okay, so, let's review. Hook, let's apply, see if I practiced what I was preaching to you. Hook. We talked about why does teaching matter, and I would have shown you a video, but we didn't have time, so it would have been clever, okay? It would have been, if only. Right?
You're
Book,
given credit for being clever though.
right? I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Book. We looked at Colossians, right? So we looked at the Bible, and then we looked at it. How can we make it real in our lessons plans? And I gave you that little mnemonic device: hook, book, look, took, right? And then we did small group brainstorming, and we did large group sharing, didn't we? Okay, for each one of those. Took, which area are you weakest in? How can you improve? Okay?
I know, but just actual teaching is it's hard to sometimes get all of that in your time period. Sometimes something goes over and you don't.
Right.
I would say on most of the times when I did a lesson is something would get left out.
Right. And that's going to happen sometimes. And sometimes, by the nature of your passage, one section is going to be way bigger than the others. You know, sometimes you may say, oh, this is a really big, maybe I'm gonna do this over 2 weeks. You know, maybe I'm gonna do the hook and the book this week, and then we're gonna do the look and the took next week, you know? Divide it up, if that's the case. So, yes, sometimes one is gonna be like 2 or 3 sentences, and sometimes it's gonna be 2 or 3 minutes, and sometimes it's gonna be 20 minutes, you know, depending upon who your kids are, what your topic is, and kind of, you have to feel it out, right? You have to go, there's a give and take in teaching, isn't there, right? Where's their interest and where's their not, and you know, you kind of sound that out as you're going, and I think the Holy Spirit's involved in that. Any other questions or comments?
Arla and I had a little discussion about, it goes back to behavior actually, and trying to get the most out of the time that we are committing to and the kids are involved in. And I know, you know, you suggested that we all approach that first Sunday with having the kids come up with expectations.
Right. Right.
But I would really like to have that shared among all, because expectations for kindergartners are the same expectations for middle schoolers and high schoolers. It might be phrased differently, but can we share those and incorporate them into, I'm gonna call it code of
Like a
ethics?
St. Paul.
Yeah, you know, just an idea, because I think it's valuable enough that, you know, the kindergartner group or the you know, high school group are coming up with great ideas, and we should all have them incorporated down this
Okay. I will leave that to our co-chairs to see if we want to do that. It certainly would be worth it to publicize to one another what our groups came up with,
Yeah.
you know? So,
Now, way back when logos first started, and the dinner dean also was like in charge of, if there was a kid that was just being naughty and disrespectful and you're having issues with, and you couldn't get through your lesson because they just didn't want to
right,
be on task.
right.
And the dinner dean was kind of that person that would have that kid come out and they'd kind of watch him, and they were there. We had
Right.
the sheriff.
Like beforehand.
Yeah, you kind of,
before
the dinner dean was like the principal kind of in charge of behaviors. And so there was accountability for that child that, I'm just here after school doing what I want. Right. You know, I want, as a parent, I think everybody, if you have your kid in logos, you kind of like to know that at the end of the day, what you learn, that there's a lesson there. That they didn't just come here and play and not have any accountability.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. I
And
know
I think,
body-wise it's a hard
you know,
one to cover,
I'm
but
kind of the free floater in Fort and logos, and I kind of just wander around, and sometimes in my office, and sometimes I'm out, you know, poking my head in here and there and so forth. And so, you know, if you need me to be the principal, you know, I'm happy to do that. You know? Okay. Listen, I know we're late. Let me close this with prayer and I'm going to let you get out of here. God, thank you for these teachers and for their commitment to our kids. And we're just praying together that we could present the most appealing and biblical and encouraging lessons to these kids. And we're also just praying that we can just love them. And just love them and love them and love them and not stop, so that they just know beyond a shadow of a doubt that their Sunday school teacher or their logos teacher just thinks they're the best thing since